it for granted because we saw the enemy. You took it for granted, or many of you took it for granted for what reason? Because you didn't want to admit what it was doing to you as well as what it was doing to other people. Martin made us all face the fact of what we are, who we are, what we're like, what we dodge, what we say, the lies we tell. We call them little white lies, but nothing could be more evil. All right? Is that, let's look at it, is that these false assumptions. But radical changes were made by that movement in every part of American life. You can't name anything in America that wasn't changed because of Martin King and the Civil Rights Movement. Is that, let me give you two. In law, all law got changed, right? North and South is secondary. America's legal system got changed because of it. You got a law school over here, go over and ask somebody, right? All right? All American politics was changed. Education was changed. Religion was changed. The value-producing agency of the land had to admit that they were wrong and that the truth was in Martin King and the people that were in the streets instead of in the suites. All right? Had to admit it, right? Is that we freed our enemies, which the New Testament says is the highest order of things. We freed even our enemies, the whole South. We educated the South. Before we moved, they had 3 education systems, right? They had one for blacks, one for whites, and in North Carolina, one for Native Americans. Now, the point being is they were the poorest area of the country, so they couldn't afford one good one. So half the nation was automatically ignorant. And even if they were taught in such a way that you never couldn't find the truth in it. I was there, I know about that, all right? It was outside the school that I found my greatest hope and greatest sense of education. It wasn't inside of it, right? Is that when you look at it, we freed our worst enemies. We freed them economically. Is that had it not been for the civil rights movement, then major companies could not have come to the South because they would have been destroyed. All you had to do was to say something that a racist didn't like, and he and his Klan buddies could destroy the whole company. All right? All you had to do was to say something they didn't like, and you would be ostracized in community. So when we look at it, is that the industry came to the South after the Civil Rights Movement. And ask Clinton and ask Carter, and they will tell you they wouldn't have been elected because nobody in this country was going to seriously take a Southern politician for granted. They were to be laughed at, right? They know off the bat that such racism was not to be respected. No matter what you might feel at home about one or two things, you're not going to make them presidents. Martin King was the greatest social strategist of our time. You know, it's interesting, the great prophets, they were the strategists of their time, right? And they didn't have any guns. Huh? I think of the 8th century prophets, right? These were all great men, right? And they didn't shoot nobody. They just told the truth, right? Very simply. Martin was a strategist, but you know how he did it? He took the Bible, the Sermon on the Mount in particular, but the Bible itself, he took it and placed it in front of America. And he took the Constitution and placed it in front of America and said, "Who are you, America? What do you really believe? Do you believe anything that has value? Or do you depend upon some valueless value? Who are you, America, that claim so much and allow so much evil to exist?" All right? Who are you? And over in your school of psychology over there, they'll tell you that the first sign of insanity is to say you believe what you're not. and think you're going to become it, you know. That's it. Martin put it there for us to look at. Is that, now let's look at that. Is that Martin has done his work. That's over. Tremendous, powerful work. And we finally put a monument to him, right? Martin wasn't concerned about monuments. We were. But at first they wouldn't give him to him. And now they want the memory because they realized it's what saved us. Huh? Now it's our turn. What are we going to do on our watch becomes the issue, right? Things aren't like they used to be, but they're not like they need to be. Is that, you see, Martin's done his work, but he left work for us to do on our watch. Each of us must choose a task, is the way I see it. Each of us, right? What made the movement work is it was a mass movement. It wasn't just one man. It was one man who did his work so well that millions understood. I don't expect us to imitate Martin. That's not why we come to a Martin King Day. We come to it so that we will decide for ourselves what is each one of us going to do. The base has been laid. What are we going to build on it? And this becomes the necessary task of our time. Each of us must acknowledge that there are work that must be done, and some of it you and I can do. You see, I've chosen mine. See, he was talking about Katrina. No sooner as it happened, I began to ask the Lord, Lord, what do you want me to do in that, right? I was not in New Orleans, right? I was, I was round the barber shop like the rest of the guys, figuring, oh, New Orleans is going to sink. It'll be all over, right? Is that because the white people are going to move everybody? That's the reason, right? And they're going to dump us right out in the lake, in the river, in the something, right? But the thing is that we're going out with it all. And they picked us up and thrown us clear across the nation. Where there was already unemployment, they put another 5,000 to 15,000 people. How are the rest of us going to survive as well? What's going to happen when we see the president, that president, look at all of this, and we don't see any kindness? Is that what's going to happen? You see, is that, so I chose Katrina, went down, found me 36 ministers whose churches had been destroyed, and found one way at least to move, right? Everybody can do something. It's up to us to find it, right? Is that this is not a day on, this is not a day off, this is a day on. See, we must find the problem that must be solved, and we can do it. Each of us must find a need that must be fulfilled and do it. Each church must cause its members to work together and create an agenda to help solve. Every organization, every NGO must find a spot to serve. The work is not over, and we can do it. It says, is that it seems that if we look, we'll find a meaningful task that not only will help others, it will help us as well. All right? Now, is that when I look, we can see that there's this small thing to do. But if we're thinking about Martin, we have to also realize that there are larger tasks that must be fulfilled in American life. I chose mine, and that is to develop leadership. We can't afford to have leadership by accident anymore. We can't afford to have our leadership decided by a TV set. We can't afford a leadership that's bought off and deciding how much money can you get to get elected. We can't afford to have false leadership in a realistic time like in which we live. And came to understand that people's movements have created more positive change in America than all of Congress's. Not one, name them. Their greatest action was done behind women's movements, the labor movement, black movements. It was not done because they decided. There wasn't enough money in it to satisfy them, right? They weren't suffering, right?